supposed to be with Kai!
What?
Listen to me, you two are destined to be together.
Kai has only been in 2 episodes and they're already making her endgame. I'd make a joke about this, but it's just insane. So here's an opinion you probably weren't expecting. I don't hate Kai. Kai got screwed by Omniverse. No, seriously, I don't think enough people truly appreciate how doomed this character was. Not since Abby have we seen a character just so doomed to get shit on. Because sure, you can argue that the character works, but from the fandom perspective, she never stood a chance. Coming after the fan, okay, I'm gonna be really generous here and call her favorite, Julie, who for 5 seasons was Ben's love interest, despite Ben failing at cheating on her in every other episode. But still, she remained the most popular non-incestuous ship for Ben. Only for Omniverse to swoop in, beat that ship to death with a cell phone, and tell us that we were getting Kai instead. Yeah, no shit. People were going to react negatively to her, but the writers somehow found a way to dig that hole even deeper.
Trust me, Ben and Kai are the perfect couple. They just didn't know it.
Yeah, it's not enough that the show is pushing them so hard. They're putting them together because the in-canon reason is fate. Honestly, the ship should be dissected, studied, and burnt to the ground for what not to do in a relationship, as it's bad enough when a show tries to force a couple. But when the show admits that it's forcing the couple because of a pop-up, it's no wonder people wanted to hit delete. Hi, I'm Sarcastic Chorus, and I'm a shipping degenerate, currently dying of thirst, so subscribe. It won't help, but it will make me happy. Now, Kai is a touchy subject for the Ben 10 fandom, as she has her defenders, but everything about her, from her personality to her role in the show, has been picked apart by people with a very obvious bone to pick. And like most things on the internet, some of the criticism is valid, others are exaggerated, and some of it is just complete and utter nonsense. Now, I didn't watch Omniverse when it came out. I heard about it, heard what happened, but I still came in with a slightly open mind. So I can now do you all the favor by going through why Kai is here, her real problems, and just general thoughts. As the Julie drama aside, Kai isn't a great character, but the show still doesn't do her any favors. But let's just get over that why question though, because it's so insane going down this rabbit hole. Because why would Kai, a character who made 1 appearance in the original show plus a cameo, be brought back years later, midway through the 4th season of the 4th show about Ben 10, only to be immediately declared Ben's sole love interest and steamroll the competition? The answer is, of course, stupid. But it's because of this pop-up that said she would. Back in the day, Cartoon Network would do these fun little trivia bubbles that give you little extra facts about the show from the creators. Some of them were fun, some of them were boring, but no one ever took them seriously. Like, they're basically creators making announcements on Twitter, like, you could take this as canon, but it also doesn't mean shit and can be changed at a moment's notice as it has no actual bearing on the show. Which is what happened with Alien Force, as it pretty much ignored these things and tell its own story without having to get bogged down in what has to happen or follow someone else's checklist. But then Omniverse happened, and suddenly those pop-ups became gospel. See, Omniverse has a problem in that it comes after Ultimate Alien and Alien Force, both of which are good shows on their own, but neither were the mega hits Cartoon Network wanted. So they just kept messing with it, constantly trying to recapture lightning in a bottle that was the original Ben 10. First, they started by regressing Ben's character from a goofy but mature guy into a narcissist 10-year-old pretending to be 15, before pushing for more connections to the original series, more episodes where we got to see Kid Ben, more, which just became the main mandate for Omniverse. It had a tall order. It had to match the tone of the original series more, tell stories including Kid Ben, follow up on Ultimate Alien, all the canon that it created, and again, doing everything humanly possible to make Omniverse like Ben 10 OG. Now, I do like Omniverse. I do think it's fun. It has arguably one of the best art styles in the series, and Rook is best boy. But somewhere down the line, being like the original Ben 10 turned into a let's make a Ben 10,000 prequel, and that obsession gets really annoying once you notice it. And FYI, Ben 10,000 was an alternate future episode of Ben 10 where he travels 10 years into the future to teach his former self to take a chill pill as he is a massive dick. But then, the episode ends, and that future won't happen. It's AU. Will never happen because Ben gave his grandpa a fucking cake. It was a cool, fun side adventure where we got to see a badass older version of our child protagonist, and throughout the series, we in fact would meet many different versions of Ben 10K, but none of them ever fully lined up with that first episode. Especially when you factor in the confirmed sequel to that episode, where Ben's son Ken meets Kevin, who has a chin scar and is still Ben's nemesis. This alternate future only makes sense if you imagine it from the OG series on, because it makes no fucking sense that Kevin would still be a villain after becoming a good guy and breaking Gwen's back. This future was impossible, but Omniverse still became obsessed with making it happen anyway, as it would do small things, normal stuff that I kind of enjoy, like changing certain character designs to foreshadow what they look like in Ben 10K. Dr. Animal got this brain jar he'd have in that one episode, Kevin would get the same scar, and the whole world seemed to be on track to being more futuristic and alien-filled, like it was in the future. The only problem, though, is Kenny. See, Ken 10 was a Tanner mini-me of Ben, with the pop-ups confirming that Kai was his mother, and because good guys can't have baby mamas, she has to be Ben's wife. So Kai has to be endgame because Ben 10K was this show's. And let me just say, flat out, Ben 10 has a bit of a retcon problem. The fact is, everyone liked the original, but Man of Action, the team that created it, only worked on that first series, meaning every new series had a slightly different team with different ideas and motives, going from how the world works to how the characters changed. Some changes are good, some are terrible, but so long as it added more than it takes away, I'm usually fine with retcons. I'm a comic book fan, I have to accept their existence. Omniverse's big problem though, is that while it is fun, it feels like a show trying to bend and contort itself in the established stories to fit an ending it has long since grown past. This is a show with multiverse. All these universes can coexist, but after Alien Force, you simply can't make this become this. So what Omniverse ends up actually doing is borrowing the aesthetics of these two episodes, even though it knows it can't happen. It admits it, which begs the question, what's the fucking point? Why be so slavishly devoted to these two episodes of the original if you can't actually make it happen? This is a new show, and the fan service is cute at first once you notice it, but then all of a sudden it starts influencing the characters and the writing. It completely loses me. Omniverse is good, but whenever it tries to make the show more like Ben 10K, it succeeds at only highlighting all of its worst traits, and nowhere is this more evident than with Kai, as she feels like she is completely shoehorned into the series, and once you recognize what the show is trying to do, it caused the perception of Kai to shift from being an underdeveloped love interest to feeling like a creator's pet, where the people behind the show are more in love with the character than the fans are, causing a disconnect where the traits they would imagine to come off as cute or fun become aggravating, and the playful bickering that the show wanted never feels romantic. It just feels like the show wants it to be romantic. But besides that, Kai's character didn't have to bomb as hard as it did. But so many of the creative decisions and ideas around Omniverse, topped with Julie, the previous love interest of over 90 episodes, getting thrown out in a joke, doomed this ship. And we haven't even started talking about who Kai is, so you know this girl is screwed.
Kai Green is going to marry Ben Tennyson.
Please, I've heard that one before.
Kai was in the original series, and she's not interesting. The only things you really remember about her is Navajo. Ben has a crush on her. She's not interested in him though, till wolf aliens scratch the Omnitrix, causing Ben to start shifting into one, which only then does he get her attention. Sadly, when Ben turned back into Ben, she loses interest, as she's a Jacob stan and taming his woven sensibilities was hot. But she couldn't care less about the actual person.
You really liked me. Well, that was before you turned back into, well, you.
She's a one-off, with her only real memorable trait being that Ben had a crush on her. But Omniverse need to give her personality traits, So her loving Ben's transformations, then telling Ben to fuck off, was going to be hers. And it's not great. I'll get to that in a moment, but Kai being a furry is the least of this girl's worries. Ben and Kai don't have any chemistry, or more accurately, Ben and Kai doesn't have as much chemistry as the show thinks they do. The main idea is that these two as a couple is that they have belligerent sexual tension. They are constantly fighting, they're arguing. You always think like, okay, can you guys just screw already? But the main idea behind Kai, or like the appeal, is that she's going to be the only girl who can check Ben's ego when he's being an ass. A poor man's Artemis and Kid Flash. The only problem with that idea, though, is that isn't what she is. Again, this is an area where I see the intent of what they're trying to do, but it's also weirdly awkward in places, like take their first conversation together. It's a pretty typical meetup for acquaintances who haven't seen each other in years. Hi, nice to see you. Oh wow, you grew too. Oh, remember when you wanted to make me your pet? Oh, like as if, but yes.
Never mind. I have to rescue my grandpa.
Make that we have to rescue your grandpa. Kai, this is Rook.
Miss Green, it is a pleasure to meet.
I just called you for backup anyway.
So like, that interaction feels a little weird. It's abrupt, and feels like it's just there to transition Kai and Ben to their usual bickering shtick. That'll grind this relationship to a halt. Once you start picking the interaction apart, you realize it somehow screws up some of the most simple things they could have done to put Kai in a better light. For starters, the intro is just fine. It's not groundbreaking, it's a normal-ass introduction. But you hit that point after the dog talk where it starts getting rushed and starts feeling clunky. Kai says she needs to save her grandpa. Ben says, we will rescue her grandpa. Rook introduces himself. Kai then cuts off Rook to respond to Ben, but it feels like it comes late, as Ben has already finished talking and we're behind Kai so we don't get a chance to see her react to what they're saying. It makes her cutting off Rook feel abrupt and disconnected to the things she's actually responding to. It comes off as needlessly pedantic and confrontational, especially when Ben, to this point, hasn't been his usual douche self.
Never mind. I have to rescue my grandpa.
Make that we have to rescue your grandpa.
See, Ben includes himself and Rook when Kai states she needs to save her grandpa. And from Ben's lack of showboating, I took his we to imply all three of them. Then Rook starts talking, you forget, then Kai gets unnecessarily hostile by implying they are only her backup, which isn't strong woman checking Ben's ego. It comes off as the kids would say, bitchy. Now, I know someone desperate for nuance in a show with alien rednecks would say that this is the beginning of their misunderstandings. Maybe Kai thought Ben was talking about just him and Rook, and she was trying to insist that this is her mission as not to be excluded. Which sure, embrace that headcanon if you want, but...
If I may interrupt your courting banter?
Are you kidding me?
Your girlfriend fights better than you do.
She's not my girlfriend.
Mr. Tennyson and his girlfriend to Elizabeth Tower.
He's not my boyfriend!
Young love.
Yeah, the show isn't that subtle. What the show is going for is a bickering couple, which means that they must like each other. That's the whole point, which leads to a lot of what they argue about to feel pointless. And you can feel the dynamic that the writers want, more than something that is naturally developed. Kai and Ben seem fine, till Kai seemingly gets hostile out of nowhere, and Ben's ego flares up as he brags about saving the universe, which is the energy Ben needs to have started with to make Kai flaring up at him feel warranted and not whiplash. Plus, she cut off Rook. No one cuts off Best Boy.
I will wait in the truck.
This is our first reintroduction to Kai, and while she was with her grandpa in the opening, this is where we first see her with Ben, who by default, as the protagonist, is the character most people will like. So if you introduce a character being rude and snippy to the character people like, it makes people really dislike them. So if you're going to get this intro, Ben has to be acting like an ass, which is really easy for him, so that we, the audience, see that she is justified in being hostile to his dumbass. But nope, he's nice.
Make that we have to rescue your grandpa. Kai, this is Rook.
Miss Green, it is a pleasure to meet.
I just called you for backup anyway.
Also, this episode is kind of weird. Like, it feels like it was cut for time, and there's supposed to be more in every scene.
Don't listen to him, Kai.
Or it sometimes feels like the show just makes a mistake. Like in the next scene with Rook, he's talking, then stops mid-sentence. And then, half a second later, Kai starts talking like she interrupted him.
Substantially fewer. Huh? But it would still take a considerable amount of time to...
Guys, I already know where he is.
Yeah, no, that's just a mistake. She needs to start talking just as he stops or while he's talking, or feels like a bad play where actors are saying their lines late.
But it would still take a considerable amount of time to...
Guys,
But it would still take a considerable amount of time to...
guys, I already know where he is.
This episode is clunky on its own, but being the intro to a character who was already set up to be controversial, it's not ideal. And throughout the whole thing, they are constantly telling you how much sexual tension Ben and Kai have. Emphasis on telling,
He's not my boyfriend!
as most of the bickering isn't hot, it's just bickering. But the other characters in the show keep punching you, telling you how romantic this is. Which is fine the first time it happens, but it happens like 3 or 4 more times. And the heavy-handedness of it distracts from the few moments of chemistry that they have. This isn't a great episode, and it's not setting up a great ship. It had potential, from Kai making fun of Ben for hastily renaming Benwolf to Blitzwolfer, to her actually being in the field with Ben. She's set up to be a more active love interest than Julie, someone who will go on adventures and kick butt with him, which is cool. But every love interest in Omniverse is doing that. It's not a unique trait anymore. What is unique to Kai is how in her second appearance, we get to what is easily the most grating part of this whole ship, Spanner.
Supposed to be with Kai! What?
So from a meta perspective, we can see that the show is angling to get Ben and Kai together because the holy pop-up said so. It's not great, but it's not something your casual viewer is going to know or even pick up on. They could have gotten away with this. But then Chronos Spanner, a time-traveling hero from the future, appears and starts saying that Ben and Kai have to be together, changing the in-show framing from the creators kind of want these two together to these two have to be together. Spanner is a fun idea, but him pushing Kai as endgame is fucking stupid.
It was you?
Yes, Spanner is actually Ken 10 from that AU Future episode from the original show. Of course he would like to see his parents end up together, but a few things. Ken, being here trying to push his parents together, takes the extremely heavy-handed attempts to make Ben Kai a thing, and made it into a literal character, making it painfully obvious what the show is doing, or not providing an extra reason for them to actually get together than this fucking guy says so. Multiverse is a thing, and Ken never once thinks that he is at risk of getting retconned out of reality a la Back to the Future, making the fact that all of this is out of pocket, with no fucking extra motive behind it than I'm a hero, and I think these two are meant to be together. With Spanner's identity still being a mystery when this happens, so we don't have the context that this is Ken, leading to Spanner to be seen as an author insert trying to force the ship together, which people will react negatively to, because of course they will.
Trust me, Ben and Kai are the perfect couple. They just didn't know it until I brought them closer together. Ben! Kai! There's some wasabi quinoa puffs! Gross. I'll pass. But you guys eat those together all the time. I came here from the future, where the two of you are together.
The show had stopped trying to build an organic relationship and instead framed it as inevitable, the destined ship, the way things will go, all while Ben and Kai are a dysfunctional mess with no actual relationship, let alone chemistry. But please, let's have more of Spanner cock-blocking Esther so that he can make his personal ship happen. And if all this wasn't bad enough, this all happened in Kai's second appearance in the show, a full season after her last one. In her second fucking appearance, they unloaded all of this on us, and like, wow. It would be one thing if Kai was a regular in the show, someone who had been there, had a fight-flirt dynamic with Ben more than once. Well, he was going through a more casual relationship with this other woman, who was obviously too good for him. Then, and only then, can you have Spanner throw in what feels like a hissy fit over his OTP not happening. Only then would you have a chance at making this come off as only marginally asinine. But to do this in her second appearance, more than midway through Omniverse, this ship is effectively getting a fast pass begging you to be canon. The show is begging us to see this couple as it was meant to be, by having their literal love child from the future tell them they're meant to be.
Later, Mrs. Tennyson.
That again? Ben, there is no way we are married in the future.
Maybe this wouldn't have driven me so crazy if I hadn't seen this exact same story come up in Justice League, where the best Green Lantern, John Stewart, gets sent to the future and finds out he'll have a son with his ex Hawkgirl, who takes this as a sign that they're meant to be together and suggests they get back together, only for John to shut that shit down hard.
I won't be Destiny's puppet. Whatever the future holds, we'll make those choices ourselves.
Don't say you don't love me.
I'll never say that. But you need to know, I'm staying with Mari.
See, that is an actual great character choice, as while John doesn't get back together with Hawkgirl, it leaves the door open for something to happen in the future. They're not getting together because fate said so and their son suddenly showed up. They'll get together when they get together, because of the choices they'll make. So for Spanner to be here pushing Kai as endgame, it just feels forced while adding absolutely nothing to any of their characters. Everything that happens in this episode could have happened without Spanner. And the fact that this episode ends with a flash forward to something just labeled the future, where Kai and Ben are married, because of course it does, that just breaks this ship more than it had to. As the episode starts, with Ben getting a call from Esther for a museum date, where he calls it stupid, accidentally makes it a friends thing, before immediately getting excited to see Kai, is the kind of dumb high schooler shit that should keep Ben single, as he doesn't deserve any of the women in his life. And Spanner locking them in the museum together doesn't help that, because we feel like he's making these choices because the creators want him to. Also, just back to that lack of chemistry, these two have only two modes. One where they bicker and be smarmy at each other, performing the exact trope you'd expect but with no variation, and Kai wanting to fuck Ben's aliens, and just wanting him to fuck off, which is the perfect opportunity for me to make a Blue Mound State reference.
This is okay.
It makes me want to snuggle you.
Okay, all right. And this, not so much?
No, makes me wish you were someone else.
Yeah, this is another area where her defenders will say that Kai only does this as a joke, that it's meant to be playful, which I think it is, once. The rest of the time, she is completely serious.
Nice move.
Thanks, I've been practicing.
I was talking to Ball Weevil.
Yeah, that's the big controversial point about her. In her first appearance, she did show more of an interest in Ben Wolf than Ben, talking about how she'd like to train and tame him, but she's also like 10 when it happens, so you can chalk it up to youthful ignorance, unlike Ben, who's just ignorant.
What was that, some kind of secret Navajo fighting technique?
Yeah, it's called judo.
The decision to make this a big part of her character, it's weird. As she's not the furry half the fandom wants you to believe, she is though absolutely an alien fangirl, squeeing over Ben's transformations while gushing over Ben Wolf's tail, actually kissing Accelerate when he discovers a clue, and lapping up Fairy Ben, all before giving actual Ben a cold shoulder as she's disappointed when he turns back. This leads to the reception that Kai is more into Ben's aliens than she is into him, which isn't a great look. And I'm getting tired of saying that it isn't a great look. But none of this is a great look, when the show is constantly telling you Kai is Ben's soulmate, making her tsundere tendencies even more noticeable and exhausting the section of fans who are already sick of this trope from anime.
If only you were as good at being normal as you are at being alien.
This idea could have worked, but the execution is where it falls apart, especially under the expectations this show is putting on it. If Kai had thought Ben Wolf was cute, that's fine. He's adorable, roll with it. I think this can work if Kai is just patronizing the hell out of him. Ben is pretty much the worst, and he needs a woman who can correct him or keep his shit in check. So if Kai only finishes arguments Ben started, I think it would play better. If she was being playful and messing with him by calling his aliens adorable, or making fun of some of his names, that wasn't invented on the fly, I think there'd be something there. Instead, we get a half and half, where they'll play it fun sometimes, but then the rest, they'll play it completely straight, only adding more fuel to their haters' fire and not giving enough actual reasons for everyone else to care about her. As instead of making Best Girl, they gave her the basis of creepy fangirl material. And this wouldn't be such a big problem if they weren't trying to set her up as Endgame in 4 episodes. Yes, You heard that right. Julie got the shaft for being in the show from the very beginning of Alien Force. Esther, Ben's fun, casual pick-me girl, who spent most of the series trying to get Ben to take their relationship to the next level, only to get a boyfriend off-screen and right off into that sunset. All of them are gone, so that Ben can be stripped of everyone he had marginal to no homo chemistry with, so Kai could be crammed in at the last minute. Which is not a great look. As in the 4 episodes we have them arguing in London with wonky pacing and weirder moments, the museum episode where Spanner declares her endgame, then the show does everything in its power to make them seem inevitable. Because Ben 10K is just the greatest. The one where they're looking for a lost temple, with 2 whole moments that I actually like.
Don't worry, I'll get it. Wish me luck?
Ooh.
Ben, you're not getting a kiss.
Whatever. Thanks, sweetie.
No problem.
Then the worst episode, where Ben's love life becomes a game show where every woman in his life is forced to compete for his hand in marriage, including his mom. In this shipping episode, Ben is forced to watch women survive till the last person standing is forced to be his bride. The whole time Esther is trying to talk to him, but he ignores her, because, like I outlined in my Julie video, he's just the worst now, because of the studio. Kai gets all of Ben's attention though, with them arguing while people are being eaten, then suddenly it's overly flirty, before it finally ends with Ben and Kai tripping into a kiss. But then Esther, the best girl Ben had since Julie left him, tells him it won't work out. Not because Ben clearly isn't interested, not because she just clicks better with this rando, but because...
I like you, I do. You're really cool. And I even got used to that. But I'm tired of fighting fate.
I am inevitable.
Because fate is the only thing that matters to this ship, because they have nothing else. Look, I don't want it to be said that I hate Kai. Kai is not the problem here, it's the writing and Omniverse's obsession with setting up Ben 10K, but rushing the fuck out of it. I like the idea of Kai. Ben finally gets a woman who can deal with his shit, but showing them being in love by making them bicker at each other doesn't balance out Ben. It feeds into his petty ego, rather than taking him down a peg. Throw in the fact that she is only in 4 episodes before we see them as a married couple in the finale where she's a nag, and Kevin is standing around cosplaying as himself. And look, every couple is forced together because it's fiction and none of this is natural. But when they have a literal character say they have to get together, while they have 0 chemistry, then bring up fate constantly when talking about them, you really can't turn off your brain and let the ship happen naturally, because the show can't stop drawing attention to it. Kai's character never stood a chance. With how this show threw out Julie, people were always going to be hostile towards any new love interest. People would be hostile to any show that tried to pull this fate crap. But for Omniverse to do both, to botch Kai's introduction, to give her so little time to grow, all because of an obsession with the original's canon that even Star Wars fans would bat an eye at, yeah, it's no wonder people reacted the way that they did. I like Omniverse, but it screwed up Julie, it screwed up Kai, and it just kept making all the wrong decisions. I'm not pissed at Kai. I'm pissed at how they tried to force it to happen, and how it wouldn't stop drawing attention to itself. But on the bright side, at least we still have Gwevin.
Look, Gwen, you have to treat a car like you treat a woman.
Go on.
No, I sense I've made a mistake of some kind.